Hi, I'm Ned and I make games. This video is from my live stream over on twitch.tv/NedMakesGames, where I'm live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. US Eastern Time. I'd love to see you there. Alright, hey everybody. Hope you all had a good weekend. Mine was not too bad. Oh, hey Safari Miner. Yeah, thanks for following. I appreciate it. How are you doing tonight? But yeah, I had a pretty good weekend. It's nice and oh, thank you for the host too. It was nice and relaxing. But okay, yeah, so normally on streams I'd be working on my little Mario Party mini game, but I don't really feel like fumbling around trying to figure out the art style tonight, so I'm just gonna do something a little more relaxing. Work on some showcases for my grass script. Oh, good to hear you're doing good. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good tonight too. I had a nice day. But yeah, so right now I have like a few different showcases that I kind of want to make. First one is like I want to try to recreate like the Zelda grass because I think everybody likes it. So the first thing I see is that it's pretty long and it has a very strong specular highlight, so we need to keep that in mind. I also notice hey Austin, how are you doing tonight? Yeah, so in the back you can see there's a little feathering of the hill kind of to suggest that there's some grass in the distance. So I'd like to try to get that. We'll see how my computer can handle it. Okay, Chrome, we don't need that. Okay, yeah, that tooltip was stuck. Anyway, so I just barely started this before the stream, and I kind of just made you know, this kind of hilly terrain. The colors obviously aren't right. But yeah, I can see the specular highlight and kind of got it going. Okay, frames per second are still pretty good. Actually, that's way higher than I was expecting with OBS running. All right, so we need first of all, the grass needs to be thicker. Let's try this. I think this is gonna, okay, yeah, so of course we're too close to the ground. Okay, so that's way too thick, but actually, so it kind of does the thing in the hill, except you can see the terrain behind it. We need to probably handle that a little better. Hey Skylar, you think it's looking good? Thank you. Yeah, so one thing about the Zelda grass also is that it has a pretty simple texture. It's basically just a flat plane, it looks like. So on mine, I've got a little bit of kind of an outline on the edges, so we'll want to try to minimize that. And also has kind of the dip in the middle of the blade, but it doesn't even look like, yeah, the Zelda grass doesn't even have that. Okay, let's bring this down just 5 per unit area. Yeah, so that's probably a bit more like Zelda, although it's hard to, we can't really tell for sure until we get the final texture. You always want to do a game with Breath of the Wild style graphics. Too lazy to actually code the shaders and make assets. Well, yeah, I understand what you mean, but yeah, hopefully my tutorial will at least give you the resources to do the grass. But yeah, Breath of the Wild type games are probably one of the harder types of games to make just because of all the the assets that they need. Am I using a compute shader or a geometry shader for this? Actually, it's neither. I use I use kind of what I call a virtual camera, where it just kind of spawns a camera overhead and that kind of ray casts down on the ground to find where grass should spawn, and then it fills up a buffer with grass positions, and then the graphic shader actually just calculates the correct vertex based on that. So we're actually no. It does use tessellation, so technically I guess that's a compute shader on certain platforms, but besides that. It isn't that the game is hard to make, it's that motivation is hard to find. Oh, I get that too. Yeah, sometimes motivation is one of those things that, yeah, takes a lot of work to keep up certain times. All right, so anyway, let me think. So, okay, so I'm trying to see like a ground texture here. I wish I could make this bigger, but I'm not sure what that button does. No, I didn't want to do that. Oh, well, it's a really small image anyway, but it seems like the ground, like there's no specific ground texture. So I think we can just kind of have it blend into the grass, make it kind of this default green color. Oh, hey, NTT, how are you doing tonight? All right. Yeah, just trying to think how to start with this. Let's see. Let's just make like a really simple shader for the grass. Or not shader, texture. Open up Substance Designer. Yeah, and ever since they the new version of Substance Designer, it's messed up my window layout. I have to readjust it every time. So I have this to already make like a grass blade. Does it even... Yeah, the grass blades, they almost don't look like they even have a curvature to them. C minus minus exists? Does it? Alright, so... Yeah, so this is my substance graph. Right now it's kind of like a Frankenstein of a bunch of different grass ideas I've been playing with. But yeah, for Breath of the Wild grass, it's actually pretty simple. So, what would be the best way to... I think I can just maybe start a new graph and just use this grass shape node. Okay, yeah, I don't know. This probably isn't the best organization, but I'll just make another graph inside this package. Okay, this will actually be there. There is a Wikipedia article about it. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of that before. Okay, so unfortunately, I thought I changed this. I can't. Okay, we can expose it. So I want to be able to edit these like shape values inside another graph. So all I have to do is just expose as a graph input. That's so curve Q Yeah, so I skew it once and then I warp it based on a sphere shape, and then I skew it again. Okay, so this will be curve, warp, intensity. I don't need any of that stuff. And then, okay, so this is a second skew. Okay, so now that I've done that, I should be able to edit those values here. Okay, yeah, so that does work. And the reason I want to do that is because I basically want to remove this curvature for the Zelda grass without destroying my other graphs. Right, so there's a little empty space at the top, so I'm going to increase the Y size. Kind of wish you could get rid of this top bar, but okay. So now I think I'll copy all of this area where I make the different color maps. Okay, let's just do it one by one, I guess. Yeah, I'm just trying to, it's been a little bit since I've looked at this, so I'm trying to map it all out in my head again. Okay, so this, basically we want to plug, if we could just kind of plug this new card into this area here, then that's what we want to do, but I think it'd be best if we copy and paste just because. Okay. Yeah, so trying to figure out what that was. Just because, yeah, we don't really know what we're going to have to use and what we won't. All right. Okay. So let's look down at the end result of the albedo. Okay. So that, yeah, it's not too bad. And this is a data texture, so the I think it's red is smoothness, and then specular strength, subsurface, or translucency basically, and then ambient occlusion, I think is what those channels mean. Okay, so let's I have the normal map. Okay, so this will be albedo and alpha. And then the data map, and okay, then we need a normal map. We'll just drag that way over there. So looking at the Zelda normal, okay, yeah. So you can see that they have a bit of a normal map on the edge here, so that you get the specular highlights, and yeah, it does look kind of like it's just around the edge. So maybe this will work. Yeah, I might have to play with it a little bit. Okay, anyway. Then we can export as bitmaps, and I want to change this folder. I guess this will be grass cards. Okay. Oh, right. And yeah, we have to work with texture arrays. So I think I'll just add a 0 at the end here. So this will just be the first texture. So the albedo alpha is sRGB, but everything else is raw. Okay. And then, so that's fine. And then alpha is transparency. And we want to make sure that bitmaps preserve this cutoff alpha. Yeah, so that's a clamp. Okay, and this one is not sRGB. Actually, I want it to be trilinear so it will look better in the distance because it blends with bitmaps more. And then this one is a normal map. Okay, and now we've got to create texture 2D arrays for each of these. And I have this cool texture 2D array asset pipeline, which basically finally lets you be able to create texture 2D arrays in Unity. Used to you had to, well, I guess you still have to get a script for it, but I just found a good one. It's, let me see. Yeah, so it's this texture 2D array import pipeline. Oh yeah, so here's the URL if anybody is interested. This is github.com/pschraut and then the array importer. But in the YouTube video, I'll definitely post a link. Okay, but anyway, the cool thing about this is it allows you to create a texture 2D array, and it will automatically update whenever you update these textures, which which isn't guaranteed to happen. Right, so now we need a couple more for our data and normal. Oh, yeah. Don't need the albedo and the data's name. And then when we have more than one texture, this will allow us to just switch between multiple different looks for the grass. I don't know if the Zelda style will actually use it, but normal. Okay, and so the soil, I just need to change it so that it only has one. Where is it? Number of textures? Oh yeah, right here. Okay, so it actually doesn't really look a whole lot different. Got rid of. Let's. Move the camera up so I don't have to do it manually every time. So I guess all we really did was get rid of the curvature. That's probably too high now. Or get rid of the curvature that was like in part of the texture. Let's see. So the Unity or the Zelda grass, yeah, it's pretty straight. So let's the soil. We'll change the maximum bend angle. Something lower. That looks better. Oh, okay, so it was being actually applied twice there. All right, now the width. I think I was pretty happy with it how it was. We can probably use our texture a little bit more efficiently if I make the width fill out the square, because right now all this area on the side is just empty, so we're kind of making the renderer have to work harder than it needs to. Did you do some offline work on the grass? Oh yeah, I've done quite a bit, because I've basically been working on it well, pretty much the whole time since the last stream. Because I had to do a lot of like research for it. So I went to go do the mini game instead, but don't really decide to switch to this project for the night. But yeah, since the grass is almost ready for its video debut, I just need to make these showcases. I thought that would be nice to do on stream. Thanks, NTT. Ooh, another bot. I should just ban that phrase of want to become famous. Blah 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 spams. Anyway. Okay, so what did I want to do? Oh yeah, I think I need to remove this central spine because you don't see it in the Zelda style grass. Okay, so again, I don't really want to disrupt my other graph, so I think I can just I'll just make this blend opacity editable. Expose as a new graph input, so this will be spine opacity. And then in the Zelda card, I can set the opacity to 0 and then it won't show up. Oh, it didn't. The name didn't get set correctly. Oh, right. Because they have like a reference name and then how it shows up in the editor. There we go. So you can't. Yeah, it's kind of amazing that just at such a small opacity, it's still pretty visible on the normal. Okay, so that should make a pretty big difference. Another thing I might want to do is I want to get rid of the darker outline around the blade. So I think I can just skip basically this step. So I could just set the opacity of that to 0. Okay, maybe you can skip this one too. Why is it darker? That comes about here. That might be okay. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that is a lot more like the style. The colors are off, but we can fix that. Oh yeah, I'm trying to find Substance Designer. But one thing I want to do, like I said before, I want to make this take up the entire texture so that we don't have so much wasted space. Okay. Huh. So if you go too far, it kind of messes up. So maybe I should just do a transformation. Source Engine's requirements are weird. Time to install Visual Studio 2012. Oh yeah, I've never worked with Source. But yeah, if it requires Visual Studio 2012, that is kind of weird. Okay, so for this, yeah, you can look down here and this view, and I'm just going to stretch it so that it covers up. Okay, so I can't really do it precisely, it looks like. And don't worry, the blades won't actually be shaped like this because we'll just have them be narrower in Unity. But yeah, this way we don't have quite so much empty space. I guess we can also stretch it up a little here. Okay, yeah, so this, I was a little worried about this. Now it's having this kind of sawtooth. Yeah, and it's really obvious on the ambient occlusion. What about... Okay, yeah, it's pretty bad on the normal too. So how can I fix that? I guess I could just do a blur. That would be the easiest way. I can also go into the grass blade itself and edit it, although it seems like when I increase the width, it kind of started to look weird. So we'll blur it until it looks smooth, and then we'll do a histogram scan just to increase the crisp edge. Okay, yeah, I think that's looking fine. And a good way to make sure that it turned out okay is to look at the normal and see if it's still smooth. That's pretty good. Nothing bad there. Yeah, without that center spine, yeah, the subsurface is kind of strange. I wish I could find a picture of the subsurface scattering of Zelda to see how that looks. Or the translucency, I keep on saying those wrong. So the sun, you can kind of see it there. It looks like, it kind of looks like the translucency and the specular map are the same. So, yeah, so I'm trying to find a picture where the camera is like looking through the grass at the sun. But I don't see it's not super good. I think this is the closest. So we'll just go with something like that. Anyway, let's see how this looks. Okay, yeah, they're way too wide right now, obviously. How come it's not... Yeah, I don't know why it's not showing up in the editor, actually. Well, yeah, I'll have to figure that out. Okay. Oh, yeah, so I need to increase or decrease this width by quite a lot. Until we get something slightly Zelda-ful. The blades are pretty uniform, actually, so I don't want too much here. Can't find Visual Studio 2012, but at least you found 2010. And Source does support 2010. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. Yeah, Unity's always been pretty good with their support for IDEs. I mean, they tried to get you to use that monolith develop for a while, but I always used Visual Studio anyway. Okay, so let's see. I don't really think you need to. Well, it is pretty tall. You can kind of see the base right there. Yeah, we'll do that. Is there? Okay. Where was my other picture? Oh, here. Yeah, so they're all pretty uniform in height as well, which I guess kind of makes sense for wild grass, but because they just all grow to the max height. I don't know. We'll add a little bit. $2010 is very inexpensive. It's 685 megabytes. Wow. What is Visual Studio at now? Like something like 8 gigabytes to install it relatively recently, but I don't remember exactly. Okay, but yeah, with this dense grass, you can barely see the ground, so I don't think it'll be that difficult to hide it. I am a little worried about the ground in the distance. Okay, still pretty good frames. Just seeing how the LOD affects things. Okay, so when you get, yeah, you don't want to have the LOD radius too high because it's the blade thickening gets pretty obvious. All right. 2019 install you did was 21 gigabytes. Okay, so I was lowballing. Yeah, I know. It's kind of, it's a lot. And not so much now, but on my old computer, I used to keep like my system drive was really small. And I hated that Visual Studio like forced you to install like 10 gigabytes or something to your system drive, which was always a pain. Adobe Flash Pro. Oh, you even have to use that for source? It is a relic. Oh. Okay. Didn't know why it had to think so much there. Okay, so when I set it to a bright color, it's because the base of the blades are dark, so you can really see it. But, oh. When it's more like that, you don't really see the base of them, but let's see. Still not quite looking like Zelda. Oh, I think for one, there's a little bit of variation in the blades that we're not getting. So maybe we need to do some random color, probably. And then, I think that the sun angle is kind of extreme, so it makes the specular highlight really obvious. You have Flash since last month. You're learning how to make Flash games. spend time for this. Well, Flash was pretty fun. I was kind of sad to see it go, to be honest. I have some good memories working in Flash. It's been a while though. Okay. So yeah, let's try messing with the sun a bit. So I kind of want it to be like that, and then okay, yeah, that looks. You still get the highlights on the blades kind of far away. So I wonder, how does Zelda? Their grass or their lighting must be a little different. Oh, I see. It's because I think it's the shadow of the hill that you're on, actually. So maybe it'll look better if I make the terrain more extreme. Okay. Now it's it does look better. In the distance, you can really see the LOD levels, though. I think that's probably just because, or you can see the gaps in the LED. I think that's probably because our ground color is so dark. It's not how it looks in Zelda. You're making a website for games of yours, still early in development. Not searchable on Google, but the site's name, Media Site Flash Games. Oh, that's pretty fun, actually. I miss a lot of that kind of old school web design. I do, like, I enjoy the minimalism that every website has these days, but it is a little boring after a while, so I guess I'd like to come visit your site when you're done with it. All right. What am I trying to do? Oh, right. I wanted to make, so we don't need such a dark color at the base. So we can bring down that quite a bit. Yeah, it almost seems like, yeah, the grass is just, there's not even a gradation. Seems like, yeah, on the Zelda, the grass is just all one color, but then there's kind of variations to it. So we can implement that a few different ways. What you usually like about old sites and games that apply mostly for gold SRC and source games is the low res textures and creepy ambience. Yeah, I actually really like low res textures. I was actually gonna work on something like that today, but I decided to take a break from it. Okay, okay, so I haven't actually tried this. All right, so it's kind of looking like it, except yeah, we're really missing that kind of random color. And the specular highlight is still not right. I wonder if I rotated it. Okay, that's not the right direction. guess it actually should go the other way. The specular... Doesn't seem like the specular highlight gets affected by shadows, so I might need to edit that a bit, but... I'm just trying to figure out why is it dark right there. Seems to have something to do with the LOD level. That's kind of funny. Yeah, let's look for this. Okay, so it's not actually the LED. I don't know why there's that dark patch. Okay, it's not the tessellation either. Alright, let's try something out. I'm gonna make this a lot smaller. So I want to test out the changes in the lighting caused by the terrain. So it does seem to work. Okay, I don't know. Is this weird, like, abrupt change right there? Oh, maybe it's shadows. Wonder, yeah, if I turn off shadows. Okay, so that was a shadow. Yeah, shadow from the hill, okay. I don't know why. Yeah, the grass, I finally got the grass to work in the editor, but it's not behaving right now. Okay, so what's the deal with this? I don't know if you guys can see over there, the grass changes shadow based on where I'm facing. Okay, so it seems like I found a bug. That's kind of why I make these showcases, so that I can try to use them to make like a real world use and catch stuff like this before I put my tutorials out. Try to find out what's causing that. Okay, but this is, yeah, so this is yeah, this grass is lit like on the blade itself, so it because I have two lighting modes. I have an instance mode where it's lit, like it calculates lighting once per blade. But now that I look about it, all of these blades are kind of, they seem to have the same lighting except for the specular highlight. So I wonder if I've gotten a little bug right there as well. Okay, no, yeah. When you turn that on when it's not set up correctly, you get psychedelic colors like that. Okay, so that wasn't it. Let's see if I can reproduce it. Yeah, there it is. Huh. Okay, so what would change based on the view direction? I guess, yeah, specular highlights, and maybe that's subsurface lighting, actually. If I turn off shadows again. No, it definitely seems to be something to do with shadows, because when I turn off shadows, okay, so maybe the shadows are just low quality. No, they're pretty good quality. Probably improve them by turning down that a little bit. Yeah, I don't like that. Okay, yeah, it has something to do with shadows because it doesn't happen. Yeah, if I turn rendering shadows off, so it's not actually the view direction. It's just kind of weird because like it seems like a blade, they just pop in and out of shadow, where since it's lit per pixel, it should see like a little bit of a gradient there. When you play on your Steam Deck. Trying to save credibility, although knowing you don't Doom one. Well, it's always a good choice. I mean, they say you can play Doom on anything, so. Alright. Okay, let's see if this happens on, if I change the shader. So we'll make it, well, let's just do a vertex lit version. I only play Doom 1, but also Doom 4. What a deal. It's a pretty good Doom machine. Okay, so okay, no, it's doing it also for the vertex lit version. Alright, well, what about the instance lit version? Okay, so for this one, I've got to use, oh, okay, so okay, I was gonna say I've got to use a different shader. Like there's this different instance lit and not instance lit. Okay, so that was, I feel dumb now. Yeah, that was the issue because I'm using the instance lit version of the soil. Okay, so yeah, that shows me I need to kind of have a better way to deal with that. Okay, yeah, so I actually haven't created a mesh lit version of my of this soil type yet, so I guess we'll do that. $700 for a Doom machine. Well, there's worse things, huh? Actually, I do like the Steam Deck, but yeah, if I had infinite money, I'd probably buy one. But yeah, next tech purchase I want to make, I think, is some new monitors, so I'm kind of trying to save up for that. Well, not really save up, just wait for the right time, I guess. Okay, so okay. So okay, this is what I need to do. I need to make another version of this shader, but have it be the mesh lit version. Yeah, so the problem was this. I'm surprised I didn't see more bugs, actually, because this version of the shader doesn't output as much data. And it also pre-calculates the lighting, so that's why the shadow is being applied to the whole blade. So I guess not a complete waste, because I found out some usability issues with this grass system. I'll have to keep that in mind for sure. Okay, so yeah, so the meshlet version doesn't have any of this stuff. I think everything else is the same though. And okay, so the meshlet version only needs this light map. Let me check. Seems like it's more powerful than your 2018 PC. Really? Yeah, I was pretty surprised by the hardware of it. Okay, so we just need this light map. Yeah, because the light map is the only thing that we can't calculate in the grass blades, so we've got to keep that here. Oh wait, actually this stays because this is the surface. I only need to down here in the grass soil. I need to add that stuff, and then change this to include the meshlet version, and that should be enough to do it, I think. Did I not? Yeah, I didn't change this name. Yeah, only one issue with this grass system is since I have like 4 different lighting types and 2 different soil types, and then they can each have combos, it's kind of a lot. Variable sprout without having been completely initialized. Oh, that's because I need to get rid of this instance lighting define. Okay. Alright, now if I change this to the meshlet version, it should all be back to normal. Yeah, so we don't see any difference there. Okay. Let's set the grass. Oh, it's still using the fragment lit. Okay, so now that bug shouldn't happen, which actually wasn't a bug. It was just because some of the lighting stuff was being applied per grass blade instead of per pixel. But now we can actually see smooth shadows. Okay, I'm pretty glad I caught that. Okay, much better. One thing though, let's fix the background color. Okay, so yeah, you can still kind of see the ground, but it's not that noticeable. And like in Zelda, basically the ground completely blends in as well. Probably a better color I can use. Let's see. No, that one's too dark. looking for something kind of in the middle. Okay, that one looks pretty good. Yeah, so here in the shadow, it's still a little noticeable. I wonder, we might make the grass blades blend into the bottom a little more by giving them a little bit of an alpha ramp. Let's try that. Okay, that's actually what this does already, so let's see how that looks. Source depth requirements are weird, but the documentation is pretty straightforward. I have heard that source is pretty good to develop in, so maybe once you get it all set up, it won't be too bad. Okay, so that looks pretty good, except up here, you can kind of see where the grass is floating. So yeah, obviously it's a bit too strong. Yeah, I'm using something called alpha to coverage, which makes it so we can't really, there's no actual alpha blending. It's more like it's dithering it. But we have to do it this way because otherwise we would have to sort the blades, and that is extremely slow. But we can hopefully fix this a little bit by bringing down the gradient. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I think that is a little better because now it's a bit softer when it touches the ground, even though I'd like these colors to match up exactly. There's probably a better way I can find that color, but we can work on that in a bit. All right, so I wonder, yeah, like the specular highlight I think is still too strong. It might be, well, I mean, it's pretty strong in the Zelda, but I think it's too common actually. So we need to maybe try increasing the smoothness so it doesn't show up as much. Okay, that has a kind of funny effect. Oh, I know why. Okay, actually, I wasn't sure how this would work. So what happens is I'm using the smoothness as kind of like the multiplier for ambient reflections. So when I turn smoothness all the way up, it's reflecting the sky. I don't know. I mean, it kind of looks cool, but it's not really what I want. Hi, Brian the Baker. How are you doing tonight? And then as far, basically you want to change the rocket speed. Look up the docs. It says you need a modified line that says define. Yeah, that is a nice way to do it. Although, yeah, they hard coded it. But I guess is source. Well, no, if you need, well, is it in C++? Although I don't know why you need Flash for that, but. Okay, so how do I want to do this? Yeah, when I added this little slider and I wondered if I should keep them separate. I already have so many options. Okay, so let's see. Does look cool, like a specular highlight or something. Yeah, I do like it, but I want to copy this. So I'm trying to somehow get specular highlights to be stronger on one side and then fall off. Which I think this is due to the shadow on the hill. And then the shallow angle that the sun is at. Oh, modify the source. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I got too much grass on the brain, but yeah. No, we appreciate puns around here. Alright, so what was I gonna do? Oh yeah, I wanted to see about how to handle the smoothness bit. I think that's called hair. 80% is hill shadow. Yeah, I think so. Oh yeah, that's another way to think about it. Not that kind of grass on the brain. Got grass pixels. Alright, so the issue here is, like I said, I multiply smoothness by the specular strength when we get the environmental reflections. And that's because I was trying to figure out, let's see, I wanted a way to kind of control whether the reflections show up. Because I think right now without doing that, basically the grass was too reflective. Which it kind of looks cool, but that's not that realistic. And you can turn it down by turning down the specular strength, but then when you do that, you don't get any of the highlights. So I guess I just need to implement a reflective strength. I don't, either that or just not even make grass have environmental reflections. I don't know. This looks really funny, actually. It's like making them look like they're glass. It is kind of cool. Yeah, so yes, ambient occlusion. Alright, well I guess, I mean adding another float here doesn't really or make it perform any worse. It's just somewhere you start to get a bit too like option overload, so let's see, environmental reflection strength. Let's shorten that a bit more. I mean, I guess I could make it only happen on like this with a Fresnel term. I don't know. Anyway, let's now I'm gonna need to update every shader that uses this. Start here. I guess I need to make a slider as well. But, I mean, like I said, there's no problem doing this. Like, in terms of performance, it just starts to get too many options. But so this will be in reflect strength. That's probably going to be too long to actually see. We'll start it at 0 actually. Okay. Yeah, it's going to make me update every shader. I kind of want to just test how it looks, but unfortunately there's no default constructor in HLSL. So I can't just have it start at 0. So anyway, we'll just go through each of these. Oh, wait, actually, it's not in the instance lit version. I think it's going to complain also that this doesn't exist. Okay, so I'm just going to set them all to 0, and once we see if we like it, then I'll update all these other scripts. So the only other one I have to do is the instance lit soil. Yeah, right here. Oh wait, actually, yeah, it's up here in the soil common. All right, and set it to 0 for now. Why is there 2 in the Windows quick access? That's a good question. Oh yeah, I don't need to put a semicolon. That is funny. You should not be promoting users to visit that folder, I don't think. Okay, so now if I turn this up, yeah, we can start to see the environmental reflections. Okay, so now I can, yeah, so smoothness is 1, so the specular highlight is a lot rarer to see, which is good. But I wonder, no, that is a highlight. It's just, yeah, because the sun is like over here, so then it reflects off the edge of the blade to your eye. See if we can find. All right, well, where is the sun actually? So it's pointing. Come on. The camera is blocking it. Turn. I want to turn the camera icon off, but oh, that works. Can't wait to get your hands on this grass. I hope that it will be out in a couple weeks. Yeah, I've got to make these showcases, which they can take some work, as you can see tonight. And then I've got to finish writing the scripts. But at least it's feature complete now, which is a big milestone. I have no idea what you'll do with it, but it'll be fun. Yeah, I really liked, I've really enjoyed playing around with the grass system. So I hope other people do too. Alright, so let's place the player somewhere. I guess I can make these hills bigger now since we fixed that bug. And I want to the grass, or the sun, I mean, is pointing in the negative X direction. Probably needs to go at more of a shallow angle. Okay. And then maybe we can tilt the hills. Okay, so somewhere up here is where we want the highlights to show. I'm gonna have to be careful with this view so that I don't show the abyss, but okay, let's try it. Alright. So we're getting some interesting shadows and stuff now. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering why the grass looked so much worse in edit mode, I basically turned off complex lighting in edit mode because it was slowing down my editor so much. Because sometimes in the editor it tends to like draw the grass twice, so that obviously get a bit intensive. Yeah. No reason to edit these values in edit mode or in play mode because it's just going to reset, but okay. So let's see. It's looking pretty good. So I guess I need to turn the the smoothness back down so we can see the specular highlights a bit more. Okay, so that is more of the effect. So I think I just need to increase the specular effect on the grass blades and we might be just about there. And maybe... Well, I kind of like these rolling hills. This is a pretty good screenshot of it, I think. I need to increase the view distance so these hills back here, or do something so that it doesn't look like they just drop off, but alright, let's see. Okay, so I think next step. So the specular, yeah, this is a specular strength, so it's kind of only a narrow band can actually, only these areas will have any specular highlight on them. So actually, I wonder if I could just make it white. Let's see how that looks. So just a plain color. So this will mean that basically the entire blade can get specular highlights. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Although this looks pretty ugly, and that's just because the grass is just happening to bend in a specific way that makes the base highlight like that. We can probably fix that by increasing the tessellation. Oh, there is no tessellation, so that's one issue why that doesn't look too good. Alright, there we go. There's still some kind of weirdness. Probably, yeah, so probably the whole blade shouldn't be able to be highlight like that. Yeah. Maybe we can mess with the normal map a little. So because right now the blade is flat except for the normal here. So let's see. I turned off the spine opacity for the color. But maybe we want to keep it on for the normal. Although, yeah, there's an easier way we can do it actually. Let's see. So, gradient. Okay, so we'll do a histogram scan just to kind of narrow it a little bit. And then we'll blend it with this one. Set it to subtract. All right. Okay, so there's a little bit. It's not as pronounced as I was hoping. I guess I just need to increase that. The only problem is here at the tip, it's a little strange. How can I fix that? Okay, I think that's the right track actually, but we need to invert it. Well, that's kind of cool, but no, that's not what I want. I guess I need to invert it again. What am I trying to do here? I want... Okay, I think I'm doing this the wrong order, actually. This needs to go over here. Yeah, because we're going to mask out part of this histogram scan that's outside of the blade. Alright. No, I don't like that line there, so it needs to be smoother. Let's see. Can I... Alright, that's actually pretty good. There's a little bit of a line right here. I don't know if that will be noticeable. So if I did that, we'd get rid of the line, but... Oh, that's not too bad, actually. I was going to say it might make it a little bit too... subtle. That actually looks a little better. Okay, let's try that. Also, yeah, I don't think that the normal map or the specular map should be entirely white either. Let's so get rid of that. So what am I doing here? It takes... Oh, what is this? So it takes in, okay, so there's smooth curvature, kind of edited levels, and then I just histogram scan and apply this gradient to it. So actually, I wonder, I mean, this map actually looks pretty good for the specular light. All right, let's try that. Okay, well, I definitely like the specular map better. Although it's kind of some weirdness here, but I think that's just, I don't know. So how do we fix that? It looks unnatural, but I don't really know why that's happening. I mean, I do know why, but I don't know why it looks unnatural, I guess. Because this is just happening because the wind is changing the normal in such a way that it kind of goes down before the like the specular highlight doesn't leave the blade before it starts moving back up. Oh, that's really interesting. So now when I have specular reflections on, they're really strong. I don't think... Yeah, I don't really know why you would ever want this. It looked okay before, but now it's too strong. Anyway. Okay, so that's interesting. I turned off the subsurface lighting and you can kind of tell. Okay, anyway, so what was I trying to do? So I like the stylistic choice maybe if someone wants crazy looking glass or grass. Yeah, I think, like I said, it looks like glass when I turn it on. So I guess I'll leave this option. If it's really subtle, I mean, maybe it could happen. It's just I don't think any real grass is gonna be that reflective. But so anyway, if I increase the smoothness, that kind of gets rid of that. Okay, well, I was gonna say it just looks, the specular highlight looks kind of weird, but I think the issue is just that the strength is so high. So if I turn it down, it doesn't look quite so distracting. But that doesn't replicate the Zelda style. Okay. Let's turn off the wind. Maybe that will help us test it. Okay, so actually without the wind, the specular highlights are all visible on this side, which is kind of how the Zelda style is. So maybe the wind was just too strong or something. Let's see. Yeah, now it's not even visible really. Okay, so yeah, that's interesting how much the wind affects it, but I guess it makes sense. Maybe the frequency was too high. Yeah, welcome to Windows XP. That's true. It does kind of look like the Windows XP thing, actually. I just need a more blue sky, huh? Is there a way to maybe have the bending impact the specular strength less? That's a good point, actually. So right now, the diffuse lighting, so basically every blade of grass has 3 different lighting applied to it. So the diffuse lighting is based solely on like the normal of the terrain. And then we have the translucency or subsurface lighting, which is if you see the grass through or see the sun through the grass. And then I have specular lighting, which is I calculate the normal of the blade itself. So that's perturbed by the wind. Maybe, yeah, like you said, maybe I can have an option to like interpolate between the terrain normal and the blade normal for a specular light. It's worth a try. So what I basically need to do, okay, so here I get, okay, so this calculates like the undeformed normal of the blade. So I guess what I do is interpolate between this value and then the deformed value. And see, yeah. Okay, let's, I think I might need to edit this a little bit because I don't think I calculate the undeformed normal. Yeah, I just have the tangent and the bitangent. Or I don't return it anyway. Right, so this does add another multiplication, but let's just see if this looks better than, I mean, this version of the shader is kind of like pull out all the stops to make it look the best. And because I have multiple versions that are cheaper, so it's not a huge deal. Oh yeah, and then down here, I have the version without the curvature. So what I would do, so I would put 3 normal world space, or let's do blade normal world space equals, when you interpolate between normals, you've got to normalize them again. So tangent to world. Okay, so I guess this will be specular, normal, deform, something like that. Yeah, these specular highlights I really wanted to add. It was one of my main goals with the grass shader itself, but as you can see, there's quite a lot that goes into it. Because basically I calculate those normals basically solely for specular lights, but I think it is worth it if I can get it to look right. Specular normal deformation. For the grass, how do I... There's another thing I could try out. Okay, so I use lighting specular. So I think this does the half vector thing. instead of like doing a pure reflecting vector for the specular light. So maybe an actual reflection would look better for grass. So that's another thing we can try. No matching. Oh, right. I forgot the lerp call. All right, and then in the material, oh right, hey, keep on selecting the wrong folder. So now we set this to 0. It shouldn't be deformed by wind, although it seems like it still is. So I think what am I doing? Oh, I didn't set it in the shader correctly. Hi, Implody. Have you seen the GDC talk on Grass of Ghost of Tsushima? Actually, no, I haven't seen that one. That might be a good thing to check out, actually. I'm hoping it'll be released for free, though, and you hope that their open world tech talk will be a free one. Oh, okay, so it's not free. Well, that makes sense why I haven't seen it. Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima was very pretty, so I bet that they have some good tips. Oh, it did just air yesterday. Okay, well, I'll have to, yeah, thanks for letting me know. I'll go check that out. Maybe it'll give me some tips. Okay, so yeah, the problem here was I didn't set that variable. Okay, so yeah, now... Okay, that's interesting how much it does. I wonder if there's another bug in my code then. Because when I set it to 0... Okay, so... Ideally, when you set this to 0, it should be the same as if you turn wind off. Okay, now it's not interpolating smoothly. What's the deal with that? Oh, I also need to turn off curvature? Yeah, because curvature affects that too, so we can do that here. Okay, but it's not the same. Okay, so that shows me that I've got some bug somewhere. So maybe it's a good thing we've tried this out. It's not in the vault yet. You're going to wait until GDC is over for that. Oh, right. Yeah, GDC is going on right now. Okay, that makes sense. Afterwards, just hoping to be lucky given that it's by a Sony studio. They are relatively open with their research. That's a good chance of Ghost of Tsushima talks will be free to watch. Yeah, Sony is pretty good, so I hope so. Yeah, I enjoy watching the GDC talks, but yeah, they're not always available. Okay, so it seems like actually it looks like it's flipping. I don't know if yeah, so if you watch this blade, when I turn the interpolation on, it flips at 1/2, and that's because it's switching between the two vectors. So that tells me that I need to that one of these things, the normal is backwards. Yeah, the subscription is like $5.50 or something like that. Definitely not gonna pay San Francisco prices for watching something online. Yeah, I know. GDC. Like, I'd love to go there in person. Maybe not this year, but it's so expensive. Kind of a shame, but... what was it gonna do? Oh, right, the vector was flipped, so draw common. Okay, so what could be caused? Oh, well, I negate the vector right here, or the normal. I wonder why. Is that probably not supposed to happen? It's a shame it's the most expensive city in the US where you pay $20 for a glass of water. Yeah, I know. It is Not the best situation. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Okay, so now they don't flip, so that's a good thing. So if I turn this, or I leave this at 0, let's put wind back on and see. You know what? That almost looks, I mean, I kind of like the way the specular highlight rolls with the wind, but it almost looks better this way. I guess now there's an option, so. Okay, yeah, the wind looks really funny with this low frequency and high strength. Usually the crosswind's not that strong. Okay. All right. So that's pretty cool. Oops, wrong thing. So when I turn this back on, okay. All right, so I was gonna say it gets stronger when I do the normal deform. Maybe that's because, probably because it's starting to deform towards my eye, which is kind of high up. Whereas when it's off, the normal vector is pointing kind of parallel with the terrain. So let's see if I move down. Okay. All right, so I'm glad I found this out because I'm kind of finding some bugs. All right, so now, yeah, when I do this, the strength of the vectors is about the same, which is good. Although, yeah, it looks, I guess I don't have to go all the way. I can just do partially, so it's kind of affected by the wind, but not completely. Okay, I was worried that maybe adding that extra multiply would negatively affect the frame rate, but it's actually still pretty good. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better, actually. Yeah, so thank you for that idea, NTT. Yeah, much less jarring. Yeah, you're right. Let's try with the curvature. Where is it? Oh, right here, bend angle. Yeah, I like that a lot better, actually. So there's still a subtle bend, or a subtle change. And actually the curvature, yeah, makes it a lot more obvious. But yeah, you can turn this down more. That looks a lot better. So now it does change with the wind, but it's not quite so haphazard. I kind of wonder, like, I wonder if this math is wrong though, because it's a little extreme. Do I normalize again after the multiply? I think I do after the interpolate. Let's see. Yeah, I normalize it once here. And then, yeah, I normalize it again after interpolating between them. Yeah, so I don't normalize here, but I don't need to because the tangent to world uses all normal vectors. I guess I could test that out to make sure. But yeah, so this is normalized because these are perpendicular. All right. Well, maybe let's try this. If I make this little multiplication a little bigger, maybe that will improve it. I actually haven't tried messing with that value. Okay, so that did seem to help. Do I need to add another option to the shader? Because, yeah, so that just makes the normal vector not, I guess, not have such fine grain change. Let's see. Because what we do to calculate the new normal vector after we deform the mesh is you just move the position around the tangent and bitangent and see how that changes the position, and then you take the cross product. Of the differences, so okay, so we deform the position along the tangent and the bitangent, and then the new blade tangent is this minus the original position. So yeah, it's pointing from the original position, or yeah, from the original position to the tangent nudged position. Yeah, so do the same thing there. I think, yeah, the math all looks fine. Maybe, I mean, theoretically, the smaller value you get here, the more true the normal would be, but wait, let's just try that. Okay, I'm gonna do something kind of hacky, just because I don't want to add too much if I'm not going to keep it. Let's just use this value. Oh, no, that won't work because it's going to like say redefinition. All right, let's just not get lazy. So this will be deform, I guess length, I don't know. All right, let's just see how this looks. This is actually just a float. It might kind of like accomplish the same effect. So it might not be worth to have both. Okay, so this is at with 0.01. So at 0.1, yeah, it's quite a bit more muted. There is slight difference because you can see when I turn this down, some of this deformation specular highlights go away. Yeah, so it's almost exactly the same apparently. And I guess that makes sense because the longer value you make here, the more like the average is, or the more likely that the values will be average. I'm trying to think about how to say it. Sorry, it's late here. But yeah, the longer this length is, the more likely that the change in values won't be as extreme. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I don't think this is that useful actually, because it kind of does the same effect. Yeah, I'm curious, like if the actual like calculated value is correct or not. But anyway, so that didn't really help. I think I'll just get rid of that option because it's more intuitive to use this deformation interpolation value, I think. All right. Okay, so I think we're getting there for our Zelda effect. So we'll turn this down. Oh wait, no, I want specular fully, but I want get rid of this. Okay, so it was the same right when I turned off the wind and curvature. So I guess that means that this value is correct. Is this a lot? It really changes the specular normal more than I would think. Anyway. Okay. All right, so I think we're actually starting to get there. Yeah, I don't want any of that. So this ambient occlusion. So when I turn this up, that makes ambient occlusion stronger. And you sometimes don't want it to be that strong on grass. When I turn it off, it actually looks better when it's off. Why is that? I think that's because the ambient occlusion value, yeah, is darker at the bottom. But I don't have any environmental lighting, do I? So I don't know why that's affecting it so much. Oh, I think I add it to the subsurface strength, actually. Also, I just realized when I change this, yeah, the subsurface strength affects the specular highlight, but technically you shouldn't have a specular highlight from subsurface light, because that's light that's passing through the blade. So I think that's another lighting bug. Let's see, so how would I do? Yeah, just instead of using the radiance, yeah, so I kind of want to separate the subsurface. I think the blades do need to be a bit lighter in general. Yeah, I think you're right, Implody. Yeah, I should. Yeah, well, I guess we can do that right now. So that's just like a slight outline. Yeah, I don't want that to be that strong. So what's this one doing? Okay, yeah, this looks. Yeah, these are more important when you have multiple blades, which you can see. In my other graph, I have this set up with multiple blades, so you kind of want to differentiate between them more, but don't need it for this one. Okay, so what does this one do? Absolutely nothing. Well, technically, yeah, it's another. Ambient occlusion, so it. Lighten these values. Yeah, the Breath of the Wild grass is a lot more blue in general. Maybe not that quite that blue. All right, let's try that out. Some of the ground color is all messed up, but that's okay. Yeah, that actually looks a lot more like it. We're not quite there yet, but I want to edit some of the other lighting. I think the ambient occlusion is not correct. And also, yeah, turning this down shouldn't affect highlights. So let's try to fix both of those. And we're going to jump into a little math. All right, so this is to calculate subsurface lighting. Yeah, it's the view direction dot the negative light direction, and then diffuse is the normal dot the light direction. So right now we kind of add both together and then feed that into the specular highlight, but I want this to only include the diffuse. Yeah, it barely has any AO. Yeah, that's true. Trying to think of the best way to handle this, because I don't really want to have to multiply more than is needed. But I need to add in this attenuation stuff before I feed it into the specular. Let's see. Attenuation. Well, let's just do that. Okay. So let's see. So before I multiplied this after saturating, but now I'm going to multiply it and then saturate. That might make the shadows a little darker, but actually it might work better. We'll try it anyway. So, I guess, yeah, we can go ahead maybe. Just position this math. Okay, so subsurface. So we gotta saturate it. So what about? So the thing I'm worried about is if the subsurface and the diffuse is strong. So minus the one more artistically focused. Well, I don't know if I'd say that. I'm probably more of a. I consider myself more of a programmer, but I have been trying to do some more artistic stuff lately. See, the problem now is that I kind of need to saturate both of these. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm. Yeah, before I optimize, I should just get it to look right. So, describe yourself as a tech artist. Yeah, that's true. But like a tech artist, I don't know. There's a lot of programming in tech art. All right, Safari. Yeah, thanks for coming by. Good luck with your source stuff, and have a good night. Anyway. Okay. So yeah, like I was saying, so basically I just want to multiply this with the diffuse here. Okay, so this color is, yeah, so times radiance times that. Okay, so technically I think, yeah, we're probably doing a bit more multiplications than we did before, but I think this grass will give us a better effect. Okay, so yeah, now when I turn off yeah, this subsurface. Okay, I don't see any specular highlights changing. Okay, even up here when that blade's lit by both the specular and diffuse. Yeah, but the highlight stays even when I turn off the subsurface strength, so I think that's right. Okay, and the reason these look dark is because, actually, I was gonna say because I apply occlusion to the subsurface translucency, but I don't. Yeah, I get what you mean, Implody. Yeah, sorry, it's a late night. I'm twisting my tongue, but okay. So anyway, I think that's correct. But I want to figure out what's going on with the ambient occlusion. The ambient occlusion doesn't appear anywhere in here, right? So the only thing it should be affecting is this indirect diffuse, but I don't think I have any baked lighting, so... Late night for you too, 5 a.m. still awake because your schedule is really bad and have to stay awake to feed the cats at 6. Oh gosh. Oh, your cats just need to stick to a schedule, or I hope they aren't sick. One time when my dog got sick, I had to feed her at a very strict schedule, so it comes to mind. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope they feel better. But yeah, sometimes I'm kind of a morning person, so I don't know how people can stay up late at night, but I guess you don't really have a choice. All right. So okay, so we want to try to figure out this ambient occlusion thing. Maybe I'm forgetting some of the math. So yeah, when I turn it off, it seems like when I turn it on, it just darkens stuff. So I guess there is still some baked lighting. You're mostly a night owl, but you have no choice right now. I want to sleep at like 3 a.m. already. Well, thanks for hanging out here. I hope making it a little bit, helping to make it a little more tolerable. Okay, let's turn off global illumination and just see what that looks like. I don't actually need this past anymore. Now that I look at it, so I'll go ahead and delete that. So I'll just set this to 0. Yeah, get rid of that. Break time for writing your paper. Too tired to produce something sensible. I definitely know how that is. Yeah, I had to do a couple all-nighters, and that's always difficult. Okay, so I guess there is some baked lighting going on. I hadn't baked any yet, but I guess it's just environmental stuff. Okay, so that's why that's happening. What do I want to do? But that explains why the ambient occlusion has such a strong effect on the grass. You don't want to... Yeah, sometimes it's not a great idea to try to solve problems when you're tired. I mean, not only will you probably do some weird stuff you won't remember in the morning, at least if anything like me. Alright, so I guess we can fix this just by turning off ambient occlusion. I could do that here in the material, or I could even just edit the data texture. Do I want... I mean, just a little bit looks kind of nice. I don't know. But in the Zelda... It has like none. The blades are basically the same color. Okay, so the one thing I keep on forgetting to do, we need to get some color variation in the blades because that's one big thing that Zelda has that we don't. So you need a light darker tone at the bottom, you think? Yeah, oh, you mean yeah, I think you're right, the ground color. Um I need to get a better shader for this probably, but oh, that's way too dark. Oh, it's because it's applying the light and stuff, so okay, let's just set it manually here. It's gonna be difficult to match this exactly. Alright, you know what? Let's we could just use um Substance Designer. Because we have the colors right here. I could just output this as a ground texture. And that should do the trick. Because it's basically the same color as the final blade. Especially bad if you have to refactor 1,000 lines of code. I can't imagine. Okay, I'm just gonna place it in here. This probably isn't the best way to handle it, but okay, so let's turn that off and then use Zelda background. Okay, so oh well, I need to go into play mode. Okay, so it's still darker. I guess it's the ambient occlusion. So if I turn ambient occlusion off, it still doesn't blend exactly. Kind of interesting. Anyway, yeah, so we'll come back to that, I guess, because I want to get color variations for the grass blades, and I kind of have a thing for that, or a system set up for that already. And the soil, you can set a grass tint texture. So if I just make a tileable noise texture, it should be able to apply a pseudo-random tint to each blade. Yeah, I really shouldn't place them all in the same thing because, or I keep saying thing, the same graph, because at some point we're probably going to want to export multiple graphs so that each blade can have a slightly different pattern, although they're so similar, I don't know if it really matters, but in this, I don't know if it matters specifically for this case, but so Zelda hint noise. So I think we can start. This one's kind of cool because it has these little circular shapes. So start like that, and I guess we can get all these. Okay, I guess I didn't copy because it's not letting me paste. There we go. Okay. So we don't want to use the same colors though, because these are a tint. So I think we might just go, I mean, we could just go grayscale actually. Um, let's try that first before we try to do anything fancy. Oh yeah, no maps needed for this one. So yeah, repeat bilinear. And then if I add it to the soil. Okay, so yeah, it's too large scale right now. You can kind of see it. So if we get in. Alright, so we've sort of got it, but it's too. Okay, there's too much of a pattern for one. I think if I made this like extremely high scale, then it would be effectively random. Okay, so yeah, that I mean, obviously the colors are wrong, but gives us kind of the effect that they have in Zelda. What am I trying to do? Yeah, I want to turn this off. Okay, so let's try. Yeah, I think we should add some color instead of it just being black and white. I think it'd be. Yeah, I think I'll actually do this differently. We'll just use a gradient map. Okay, so one side. Okay, so center I guess will be just white, which would be the original color. And then one side may be warmer, so we'll go yellowish. And the other side cooler. There's not a lot of yellow bits there. Okay, because this particular texture has a really dark area, actually. I think that'll work a little better. And maybe there's still not a lot of yellow, or maybe it's just harder to see. I think it's because the dark tends to go behind the blue, but I don't know, maybe that'll work out okay. I guess I can also drag this over to affect the balance. Anyway, let's try it out. Is that set up? Yeah. Don't really notice anything. Okay, so it's definitely right. It's just really subtle now. I mean, it's definitely there. It's just subtle. So I think it's too subtle because in Zelda, it's definitely more obvious. get rid of that. Let's try adding this just dark. That's a really weird pattern. But yeah, I don't actually think this pattern really matters that much because we're gonna kind of just turn up the scale, so it's gonna be mostly random anyway. But okay, actually that looks better, except this is gonna make it even harder to blend into the ground. So probably what I need to do is make, I don't know how I would do that, but I need to make the bottom of the blade match to a consistent color, maybe. Also, when I turned off the specular being affected by the subsurface lighting, it's made the specular highlight a lot harder to see. I might just need to find a better view for it. Okay. I mean, it looks good, I guess. I don't think the color is quite right, though. I think it's too dark in general. Right. I don't know. I think this pattern is probably not the correct way to handle this, but it's a lot of tuning values. Yeah. Okay, that actually doesn't look too bad. Okay. I can deal with that. All right. Let's see. Actually, it's starting to kind of look like it. I think their blades are thinner and there's more of them. That didn't seem to increase the amount of sprouts, did it? It looks about the same. Okay, there we go. And sometimes, yeah, because of the way the texture works, when you increase this value, it doesn't actually take effect. So it's a little bit too thick. Yeah, so it kind of jumps from 8 to 9. Can fix that, I think, by increasing this maximum size. Really? I'm surprised I can handle that, but that looks really good in the distance. Yeah, we're starting to really chug frame rate. frame-wise, though. Am I just doing this as a hobby or employed somewhere in game dev? I am employed in game dev, but this grass is mostly just for my channel. I am thinking about, after I release it on YouTube, polishing it up, making some nice little editor scripts, and like selling it on the asset store or something, but I don't know yet. Okay, so this is, yeah, it kind of jumps like that, which is, I think it's because of the way that texture works. So, yeah, it's because it doesn't change to go down to 4. But yeah, there might not be a way to fix that. Because the problem is, you have to keep the texture size a power of 2, because otherwise when you move the camera there'll be weird like rounding errors, and you'll see the grass like change its random values, because random values are based on position. That's a little strange right there, but I guess that's just the tips of the grass poking out above the shadow. But yeah, you can see the shadow on the ground beneath them. I think that's normal, but thanks, Seclusion Tower. Yeah, it actually does look really good. I'm pretty happy with it so far. I do want to, like I said, so it's looking pretty Breath of the Wildy actually. We still need to get the colors. So Breath of the Wild is a little bit more muted, I think, just slightly. And then I need a better ground texture, because even though it looks like it's pretty flat in Breath of the Wild, but I wonder if it's actually kind of tricking you. Like they actually have a grass texture on the ground, because you can kind of see the ground texture here, which I don't like, but like right there you can see it. But also the grass isn't really that thick when you look down. So yeah, there's a lot of specular highlights right there. And when you look down, don't like how the specular touches the bottom. I need to maybe edit that too. I'm hoping after university you can get a position in the area you want to work in. It's very rare for juniors to get a position as a rendering engineer, engine dev, though, sadly. Yeah, yeah, I'm just a contractor. I don't actually work in a studio, so I can't give too much insight into that. But yeah, the game development job market is definitely not an easy one to crack into. Okay, so the world size, yeah, this has to be a power of 2. But I wonder, do I need to do a power of 2 for this? Maybe that is the issue, because so I multiply the world size by the sprout per unit area. I guess technically a texture, I mean, textures work better if they're a power of 2. I'm just kind of curious what will happen if I don't do that. Oh, not necessarily game development, but rendering in general. I've only seen 2 positions for junior rendering engineers, graphics programmers yet, and those were in the US. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that probably a pretty competitive field as well. Yeah, this won't update during runtime. Okay, so that does make, yeah, give you more control. But I wonder if it's going to start to have weird artifacts. Yeah, see, like right there, because of rounding errors, when you move, if the texture is on a power of 2, they can sometimes shift like that. I don't know if you can even see it on stream, but yeah, like watch that one. Kind of a shame because it'd be nice if I could. What I'm trying to say, it'd be nice if I could have more fine grain controlled over this. How could I improve that in this shader? Oh, very niche. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've kind of experienced that because, like, well, originally I wanted to be in game design, and that's really hard to get into, so I just went to programming. But gameplay programming is also pretty hard to get into, so I've decided to focus more on tech art, and that seems to be a bit more in demand, so I'm happy about that. Almost every AAA studio with their own engine is looking for rendering engine devs, but they're all either intermediate or senior positions. Yeah, that's kind of that's an annoying, I guess, catch-22 because there's so few junior positions. How do they expect to get intermediate or senior? Okay, so what was I trying to do? Yeah, meshlet. Okay. So the problem is for that is here because we use the snapped position, but this still doesn't always work. I guess if we could use something besides the position, but I think the problem is the only thing that we really know about the grass is its position, or that's constant about the grass. So don't know if there's a way that you can avoid that. You have no clue at this point. You're just hoping for something after university. Well, I'm sure. I don't know. I'm sure that some opportunity will arise. All right. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Oops. Sorry about that as well. So, to get that snapped position. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't worry about this problem this late. But it is kind of annoying not to have control over that. So what this tries to do is it tries to like round down to the nearest position on this grid, but apparently if the cell size is not a good number for this, then it starts to have rounding errors. So the way I made that less likely to happen was by snapping it to a power of 2. Maybe what I should do is let the user set this instead of doing like a grass density, maybe. How would that look? So right now we calculate the cell size from the world size and the texture size. So if we started with this, the world size I guess would be the same. Although maybe we don't have to enforce a power of 2. We would just need the cell size to be evenly divisible into the world size. Maybe the best way is instead of... Yeah, maybe the way I should do it is instead of trying to calculate the texture size, I should let the player just set these values. Although I kind of like this math being able to... So this way it's kind of simple because all you have to do is figure out the maximum depth you want to be able to view grass, and then how many grass you want per area, and then it calculates everything for you. But maybe a better way... I was gonna say, if we make sure the cell size is let's see, so if it's the world times the sprouts per unit area. Okay. Oh, but then we turn it into an integer, so that's probably where the rounding error comes. But obviously the texture has to be an integer. Yeah, so making these both a power of 2, I assume, or I just make them have a common divisor of 2. So ideally you could do it with any number, but... I don't know. So the whole reason I wanted to do this is because I didn't like... Yeah, I wanted to be able to have more grain control over this value, because otherwise it was just jumping from not very dense to very dense. But the problem is if it doesn't match up just right, then you start to see jumping blades every once in a while, which are very distracting. Yeah, like there's one down here in this corner. And this is due to rounding errors, which are difficult to fix. Maybe I can do it something like instead of doing sprouts per unit area, I could just do... Okay, so I could just have the player set a texture size. I don't know. I don't think that would actually fix it though. Okay, I think the only way that be able to do this is I've got to be able to specify the world size and the texture size. So, yeah, that's kind of... So yeah, I guess the only thing this doesn't do is it won't let us automatically set it based on the view frustum, which is kind of a shame, but probably the depth would usually be more anyway. we still need to get this to set where to put the follow anchor. Although I guess I would change it now because it'll be, we want this to be like half of the world size, so. Oh. Oh, I'm scared to change this stuff because it's probably gonna mess up some other things, but alright, I guess we can just comment it out and it will still be here. So I'll leave this as what was working before. And so instead of sprouts per area and maximum view depth, we'll just allow the player to set the texture size and the world size. And it'll just be up to them to find a value that doesn't induce jumping grass. Okay, the texture size needs to be greater than or equal to 2. Okay. So now what this is doing is it's setting. Okay, so now all this has to do is the near plane plus half of the world size. And this is the same thing. So I don't need to comment that out because I have it above here. Oops. All right. Oh. That's funny that turned the whole thing black, but I guess this is because the grass feature can't render. Object not set. The why? Oh, because the sprout buffer is null. So maybe this initialize should return a true if it's able to do so. Alright, and then zooming here, and alright, I'm not gonna do anything fancy. So if it's not able to initialize, it will return there. There's probably a better way to do this actually. Oh, I put the return in the wrong thing. Yeah, let's not do it like this actually, because I already have this initialized variable. So a cleaner way to do it is probably just to have a way to access that. So public bool is initialized. All right. And we have to still check for this because sometimes the sprout buffer can be, although I guess if it's disposed, is initialized would be false, so maybe I don't need to test that anymore. Yeah, because we set it to false. Okay, so this is fine. You can get rid of that. Not subtoons. So the soil camera is initialized. We already checked that's not null. Huh? Oh. If initialize is false, return. Is that the bug? Okay, there we go. Alright, so set the texture to, I don't know, 128, and the world size to 50. You can increase this. Alright, so let's just try this value and see if we see jumping blades. I mean, I guess we didn't fix the jumping blades problem. Although I don't see any with this specific one. Oh yeah, there's one right there, actually. I'm not sure. I might have to do a little research. Hi, Micro. Or Macro. Thanks for coming by. How are you doing tonight? What am I making? I'm just doing trying to make some nice little showcases for this grass renderer that I've got set up. Specifically right now I'm trying to, okay, so like micro, okay. I'm trying to initialize, or not initialize, I'm trying to recreate something that looks kind of like this picture from Breath of the Wild. And we're kind of there, but there's a few small tweaks I need to make. I've kind of gone down a rabbit hole because I wanted to make my grass denser, but there's an annoying bug that I'm trying to fix. So if I change this to 512 and then make this like 64, that should get rid of the problem because there shouldn't be any jumping grass. In this case, because they're both divisible by 2. So that works. I mean, we have more control over it now. You just gotta be careful. It's looking really good now. Thank you, Micro. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's a little... Well, mostly what I'm worried about right now, or not worried, but what I want to fix is the ground texture. It's not the same color as the terrain, as the grass blades, so you can kind of see where they connect. You can't code for the life of you, but you want to get into it. Well, I have like I have a YouTube channel where I do have some coding tutorials, but I don't have. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to make like a beginner series yet, so I'm not sure how useful it would be, but you can check that out from the links on the stream if you're interested. But yeah, programming, it takes a lot of practice, so I would just encourage you to try to just recreate. Start with something simple and see how far you can get. Okay, so what am I trying to do now? All right, so I think I'm pretty happy with this now. It's still kind of annoying. I wish I could maybe fix this bug a little better, but at least it's more it's like more editable now. Okay, so if I do that, it's going to bring me back to the same thing. So what if I do like halfway, like 96? Do I see any jumping blades this time? No. Okay, so that's good. All right, and I kind of like this density. What's the stat? Okay, still pretty good frames. Okay. Oh, Brackeys, yeah, he has some great stuff as well. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of a good beginner tutorial. Otherwise, I would tell you about it. But yeah, Brackeys is a good place to start. You know what? I should really make like a page on my website that has like a good link to stuff or a bunch of things that I found. What's the performance looking like? Right now the scene is about 300 frames a second, which is pretty good considering I'm also running OBS. It goes down a lot when you move like this in the editor, but yeah, I mean, keep in mind this is a very simple scene, and basically all it has is grass in it. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this considering it's fragment shaded as well. It's not the vertex shaded version. Okay, so okay, I wanted to go ahead and finish at least one showcase tonight, but I mean we've improved things a lot, so definitely not a waste of time. So what else do I want to do here? I guess I need to make, yeah, so the grass is looking pretty good actually, but we've got to do the rest of the scene. What else do I want to do here? We tried coding on Roblox, which is coded in Lua, but we found it to be a little harder. Yeah, I really love Lua. But yeah, it's probably, I don't know if I'd say it's the best beginner program or programming language, but I didn't realize that Roblox used Lua. That's pretty interesting. I wonder if it would be like I've made a Lua editor in Unity before that you can use as like a scripting language and stuff in your games. Maybe since Roblox is using it, that would add a whole new audience, so I should maybe revisit that. Okay, so anyway, what am I'm just trying to see what else I want to do here. I guess we can look at it side by side. Okay, so Breath of the Wild still has a lot stronger of a specular effect, and I'd kind of like to replicate that. We've made a lot of improvements to the specular lighting, but it's not able to get that. It probably has something to do with the sun, maybe? Okay, so maybe, yeah, was that too much of... Oh, that's weird. What's that effect? Looks like there's a shadow. I think it... Yeah, there's some... shadows are kind of strange if the sun... I think that it's the interaction of the shadows with the terrain. So... it's kind of weird looking, but... Okay, so... the specular highlight is actually way stronger when the sun is high in the sky, which is not what I was expecting, although now it's strong for the entire plains. Is the wind just one noise map? Yeah, I'm using, well, I can show you it. Yeah, I'm using this noise texture, which I've actually been using in a lot of my tutorials since I first started. But yeah, it's just Perlin cloud noise, basically. Have I made any games yet? Yeah, I have made quite a few actually. A couple years ago, I did this thing where I tried to create a small game every month, and I did that for I think like 20 months or something like. No, I did it for over 2 years, so 26 months, something like that. But yeah, they're all on my website if you'd like to try them out, or my itch.io. I think I have a link on my stream thing, on my stream page. But it's just nedmakesgames.itch.io. They're all really small games, so don't think like Breath of the Wild scale, but I'm proud of a few of them. Okay, Micro. Yeah, let me know if which one you enjoy. Okay, so obviously this is an issue, but I think we can fix it by let's see, turning down this or turning up the smoothness. So it's not that big of a deal, but how do I? What's the specific lighting setup that they have on that Breath of the Wild screenshot? Okay, there we go. That's looking kind of like it. So let's copy this setup. Okay, so the only thing I don't really like. Okay, I can't pan with this view. Is it seems like both sides of the blade are getting the specular highlight, which is a little weird. I feel like the normal map is maybe causing that. Oh no, because when I turn off the normal map, it doesn't really affect it at all. Okay, so I guess it is just the specular strength. Okay, so what I wanted like just one side to have the specular highlight because that's how it is. Here you can see it's, well, a couple of them are on both sides, but mostly it's the side that's closest to the sun. Or actually, most of them. That's not actually true. Most of them are both sides. Maybe I'm being too picky to my grass. Although it does look a little funny. Let's edit the specular map a bit. Okay, so right now I just use this, I fed into the normal map. I kind of want, actually let's try this one again. Because that one is kind of what I want, because I don't want it to go all the way down to the base. I think it maybe is a bit too blended down, but if I turn down the contrast, I could fix it maybe. That might look better. Let's see. Okay, well, it doesn't go all the way down to the bottom, which I think does look better for sure. It's funny how much of an effect that makes. Okay, I mean, it looks fine. I think I'm being too picky. Okay, so what else? The wind is weird because it's too slow. Okay, so actually this is a good compromise because you still get kind of that wave effect, but it's not so distracting as when I had it fully. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, let's see. I think we might be getting there. I think I want to edit the colors a bit. Actually, now you can't really even see an issue with the ground. Okay. Oh, disposing not registered recorder. I don't know what that means. The floor seems very bright for having a lot of grass. I think you're right, but it's kind of like that in Zelda too. You know what? I should have something that casts a shadow to test how that looks. Where is it? Oh, it's like way out there. Excuse me? Oh yeah, so you won't see shadows when you're not in play mode. Because I disable lighting. Okay, that's pretty good. Although this, now you can really see the ground. Although I guess it's like that in Zelda as well. Yeah, we need to do something with the ground texture. I'm not trying to think about the best way to handle that. That's a pretty cool effect. Does the ground receive any shadow from the blades? No, it doesn't. And I don't think I will add support for that because that would really hurt the performance. It should be darker. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Let's try that out. Where is it? Hmm. Yeah, I think that kind of looks better. I just don't like how the base connects. So I'm trying to think about the best way to solve that. We can't use transparency. Maybe I just need to make the bottom of the blades darker. You don't even see it in Zelda. Yeah, I don't notice any of the blades where they meet the ground, but that could be the camera angle. Yeah, let's try it out. Okay, so I already have it set up a little bit. Okay, let's try that. That might be a little bit too much, but yeah, I think I'll... All right, let's see how that looks. That's definitely on the right track, I think. Yeah, that definitely helps. Now I think the should make this a little darker. Oh, there we go. That looks pretty good. You can still kind of see where it touches the ground. Oh, there we go. That's pretty good. It needs to be a bit more purplish. Yeah, it's a little different still, but it's pretty close, and it's going to be difficult to get exactly right. But yeah, that looks pretty good, I think. It doesn't help that the ground is a flat texture, but it's much more grounded. Might be different from Zelda style, though. Yeah, it's, yeah, it looks like in Zelda, like here you can see the ground. It's not a very good picture, though, because there's not very much contrast. Okay, there. Well, that's a really low res. Come on. Okay, that's concept art. It kind of seems like... Okay, that's a pretty good picture. It's really... can I open this and... There we go. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. It seems like instead of getting darker, the grass actually gets less saturated towards the bottom. And then the ground is actually pretty bright, but it changes more to like a grayish yellow color. I mean, we don't have, it doesn't have to look exactly like Zelda. I just kind of want it to be kind of stylized. So, I mean, this looks pretty good. We could try to match it. Yeah, I think that saturation, I need to work on that. So, oh gosh. Let's try this real quick. I've got to leave. Time flies when you're having fun. Is there a way that I guess I can desaturate it by like blending it with gray? I don't know if that actually would work. I shouldn't leave this on. My computer is working overtime. Oh, I'm doing minimum. Okay, yeah. So if I blend towards neutral gray, that would desaturate it. I don't know. That doesn't look... Well, okay, let's just try it out. Let's not... So I guess I wouldn't want to blend towards neutral gray. I'd want to blend towards that kind of dusty yellowish color. Okay, that's pretty good, I think. All right, let's see if I copy. 199.214.154. No way I'm gonna remember that. Oh, also, yeah, I think it'll be easier if I just change this color. But anyway, let's see how. I mean, I guess the blades won't really match the ground now, so it's not super useful. But yeah, I think yeah, blending to a desaturated color is probably more what we need to do for Zelda. Okay, so let's actually just output this flat color for the background and just to test it. Okay, so the problem is it's really dark. Oh, but I still have the tint on. So that's pretty good. I think I think this color is a little too bright. But yeah, that actually doesn't look as bad as I thought it might. Let's see. Yeah, I agree. Less bright and more gradient on the blade. Okay. Let's try something like that. Yeah, and after this, I'm probably gonna have to go, but hopefully. Okay, yeah, there we go. That looks pretty good. I think it's still a bit too bright, but I think we're on the right track. What the heck? Let's try one more time. It could also be that the ground shader has like too much specular reflection. I need to turn that off probably. There we go. It might be too dark now actually, but maybe just a little bit. Anyway. Oh no, I have the smoothness set to 0, so it's not specular. Yeah, workaholic polish can drive people mad. Yeah, that's kind of how I am. I do work too much, but I don't know. The problem with me is that if I leave like something hanging over my head, I won't be able to relax. So, but yeah, I really do need to stop this last time. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe you can kind of see right there, but I don't know. We could keep on tweaking this forever. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming out and watching. I had quite a bit of viewers and chatters today, so I appreciate everybody. Thank you again. But I'm live usually Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 p.m. Eastern to midnight. And like I said, I have a YouTube channel. I'll put some links in the chat if you're interested in that or want to talk to me on Discord or whatever. But I'll be back Wednesday. This week, I actually won't be able to stream on Friday, but because I've got something else going on. But I will be here Wednesday. But yeah, and I'm not sure. We might continue with this. We might go back to the mini game. I don't know. We'll have to see. But anyway, thanks again, everybody, and I'll see you Wednesday. Bye-bye.